Hello everyone, I'm Dan. My presentation is actually about the future of staking in Ethereum protocol. Knowns and unknowns, I called it, because there are actually things that reflect also my own personal questions into how the protocol is going to develop and how that will affect the way we think about staking. I am an ESP grantee. Actually, I work on a thing that's that's called operator-delegator separation, which basically could introduce delegations in Ethereum at protocol level. It's not something that's an EIP yet. It's just something that we're preparing to present to community. And yeah, let's go into the presentation. So most of the ideas that I put in the presentation originate in R&D discussions and in community discussions regarding what's in it for in the Ethereum roadmap. But as I said, it's also like has a touch of personal view, because of the unknowns. So if it doesn't happen the way I present it, then it's because it will happen differently. Let's see. Let's go through it. Oh, and I dropped some links for people that want to go a bit deeper into the topic, some resources. Okay, for starters, let's recap a bit what is the value proposition of Ethereum. And in my opinion, Ethereum sells permissionless access to programmable block space that's characterized by credible neutrality, that's a big one, censorship resistance, going to be a big one, and what we discussed earlier with the lady presenting interoperability, liveness, and availability. Okay, in order to achieve all that, Ethereum relies on a consensus protocol that is called proof of stake. As we know, after the merge, Ethereum switched from proof of work to something that brings consensus among participants in that execute the protocol, and that implies staking. So we know, at least, that proof of stake is here to stay. I don't think Ethereum will switch to another consensus protocol anytime soon. Okay, so staking being indispensable to proof of stake, and staking and proof of stake not going anywhere anytime soon, we can safely conclude that staking has a future. But protocol is always improving, constantly upgrading. There is the end game of the roadmap that Justin Drake's beam chain proposal predicts in about 5 to 7 years we might enter maintenance and then think about ossification. So there are plenty of upgrades that could first of all change the protocol, but bring a lot of better things. And those upgrades are needed to be implemented gradually before beam chain, and then think about going into maintenance. And these improvements number better service, better and cooler tech, and better staking economics. Now, how will these changes influence protocol participation? That's basically the main goal I want to achieve with this discussion, because we know the known ones, we do not know the unknown ones. We can debate about it. Okay, so I bundled the main protocol improvements in some buckets. that I very gracefully stuffed under the future of staking umbrella. First bucket is better service. We're going to have lower fees, actually already happening with blobs, improved UX, but technically improved UX means that we need to finalize or to make our transactions or the protocol's transactions much more faster. I mean, we need to make them immutable much more faster. That means faster finality and also shorter slot times. There was an ACD call yesterday that was actually proposing, we had Barnaby Monod proposing a 6-second slot. How are these things influencing staking? Well, first of all, for faster finality, we need a smaller validator set. And that's due to BLS aggregation limitations, like technical limitations. We cannot aggregate more BLS signatures than, I think it's a certain number, a big number, but still it's not enough to take into account all validators or take into account all protocol participants that could participate at once. So we kind of need to move away from the syntax that everybody needs to attest simultaneously every slot. So there are two main paths considered for a smaller validator set, and that's capping the validator set, where only validators above a certain stake threshold would be considered active by the protocol, and then everything below that threshold would be considered inactive. So validator would just, but in protocol eyes, validators would just switch from active to inactive depending on the stake. That is not committee based, so everybody will vote at once. So whoever makes the threshold, vote at once every slot. Second path, consider it's Orbit SSF, which would lower the participation barrier very much to all the way down to 1 ETH, 4 ETH, like introduce a minimum effective balance, and whoever has that balance at stake can participate with the clarification that the protocol would take input a lot more times from the heavier staked ones, and lesser staked ones would offer their input to the protocol or their votes, more early. Okay. What's interesting for me, and basically that's the conclusion, my conclusion for this first bucket, is that both these paths optimize the protocol for home operators. So I think home operator is something that we're going to talk a lot more in the future, more than solo stakers. So home operators, they operate their own rigs. It's like you and me. It's like you and me having 1 ETH and participating and getting delegated stake from delegators straight in the protocol, and then once we reach a minimum threshold, we get to execute, to validate the chain. But also for indirect, also for direct consolidation, like solo stakers. You have your 32, and then you start validating. So again, it seems that we're not going towards an incentivization of big operators, but more on smaller operators. Okay, second bucket is better and cooler tech. We have Chase snarkification that seems to be the way to go. Like ZK-EVM means that we could execute thousands and thousands of transactions off-chain, then only send on-chain a snark. That's basically a proof that all the transactions were valid. and then Ethereum gets that snark. Snarkification of the beacon chain, something again that beam chain, there's another alternative, but beam chain has a snarkification proposal, means that validators do not get to rerun all the consensus logic just to validate. You basically get a snark, and that snark attests that the consensus rules were followed correctly, and basically that's it. You can validate on that. I'm going to talk more on this in the influence over staking. Second point is, and this is one of my favorites, unbundling of the validator role. So we're going to most likely see a lot of specialization. Like FOCIL inclusion lists, FOCIL already introduces the new protocol role of includers. We don't have includers now. We're going to have includers if FOCIL gets implemented. We have a tester proposer separation, proposer builder separation. We're definitely going into a direction of separating what validator means at this point and thinking very differently about this. How is staking influenced? Well, regarding the first one, even your smartwatch is going to be able to safely verify the chain with ZK proof. And that's not magic or dark magic. That's, I think, something real. That means, connected with the previous ideas, that we will be able to participate a lot more in protocol with a lot less ETH. Okay, the only notable cost, if that happens, is the stake itself, because the rig cost would be like you can use your older laptop or your watch. Second one is regarding the unbundling. We're going to have most likely new protocol services and new protocol roles, and we will most likely assist to the rise of the light validator. Light validators performing light services for the protocol, light services being anything that's not strictly related to finality. Censorship resistance, FOCIL, what else? Sync committee could be a role. So anything that's not strictly related to finalizing the chain could be operated by a light, could be a light service and operated by a light validator. Third bucket, it's better staking economics. Yeah. The first one, it's a tricky one because discussions about issuance is always difficult. So most likely, again, we see how beam chain proposal is going to implement. But basically, and this is an older discussion, basically we are going to discuss pretty soon, I think, about limiting the issuance curve from 2%, where it is now. So at this point, all validators get at least 2% issuance, regardless of how much ETH is staked, if I'm not mistaken. And that neutering that curve would mean that after a certain threshold of ETH is staked, that would go very fast to zero, meaning that basically burn would overcome issuance and ETH holders would capture the fees. I'm going to talk more on this in the second part of the panel. Second one is removing the risks afferent to liquid staking. We had the colleague with the DeFi decentralization a bit earlier, and staking platforms do bring with their contract and deposit contracts and governance contracts, they do bring a lot of risks in protocol because they bring their own assumptions and they weaken the protocol's credible neutrality. Influence over staking. Yes, so once you get the curve to go to zero after towards zero after a certain ETH threshold being staked, then big operators would no longer be so incentivized to participate, or there's no more. I mean, today it's considered rational behavior to stake. You have ETH, it's rational to think, yeah, I'm going to stake, I'm going to capture that issuance by providing good services to the protocol. In the future, we might see a world where it's enough to hold your stake and capture all the fees in your asset, because staking would not be so well paid. And then you could have small operators participating altruistically, even big operators. Anybody from operators here? I don't think so. I wanted to ask them if they're going to participate with zero issues. Yeah. Okay. Second one is something that's also related to my protocol work. Again, it's not something that that's yet accepted by the community. We're in the works. But basically, if we get smaller operators with less ETH to participate, we could validate lighter services. We could get delegated. So my personal opinion is that we need a good delegation framework in protocol, not outside protocol. If implementing that does not bring too much complexity, and that's going to be debated and discussed in community. Okay, conclusions. We know Ethereum is ready to ship major upgrades in the short to medium term. We know these breakthroughs will most likely change the way we think about staking in a positive way, I would say. Again, don't take my words for it if it doesn't happen like that. How will protocol participation morph? How will the validator selection mechanisms be built in such a way that they're both fair and offer desired service, like single slot finality? So if you're going to limit to just a small validator set, what do we do with the others? Okay. Will users hold, stake, delegate? Probably all of them. And my favorite question, will we be staking in the future altruistically? Like, I hold ETH, everything, numbers go up. Do I stake? Do I not stake? I stake because I want the service to be, I want the protocol to be safe. I want it to be decentralized. I want to bring my own voice, even if it's a small node, doesn't matter. I'm one of the most decentralized guys out there. So, yeah, that's it. That's the presentation.
Thank you so much, Dan. And we actually just made stake a little bit more colorful, because I personally didn't know a lot about that, but the new staking. I remember when they went from the farming over to the staking and everybody was discarding all the farming materials for the ETH. It was a massive chaos.
Yeah. Well, if the issuance curve ever gets modified, that's going to affect some big operator services. So we're going to see how that works.
Yeah, I know sometimes.
There's always a way, and there's always the way to choose for resilience instead of profit.
Yeah, and the thing is, right now, remember the last bull run, when you have a transaction going through, you had to pay like $150 just to get one through, so earn $20.
Just to get one?
Just to get one transaction too, with the high gas fees and everything, all the validators, like $120 to get $20 out at one point. Yeah. It was crazy.
Yeah, well, things change a lot with L2s. Yeah.
Oh, it's much better. Yeah. Like now it's $2. I'm so happy. So do we have any questions from the audience here today? I see everybody's, we have one right down here.
My question would be in the direction of, if we ever get to the point in which the issuance is so close to 0% and we want to incentivize ETH holders to stake their ETH for an altruistic reason, we kind of need to educate them to know what's happening if they don't. So what should we tell them that if they don't stake their Ether, what's going to happen?
currently, I think the percent of solo stakers, so at the moment, solo stakers are the most decentralized pool of validators we have, and the most decentralized voice in the protocol. And I think they're 5% or something like that. So even though in it's not small numbers, it's a small percent, but there are a few thousands, maybe 7,000, 8,000. Even in small numbers, my opinion is that there will always be protocol participants altruistic enough to do this for a lower profit. But again, if you have delegation in protocol, so if you take the risks of LSTs and you put a delegation in protocol, I know that you have, but if you have, then you have one ETH and you participate in light services. And by the way, I forgot to say, that ETH that you will participate in light services will not be special because it's not finality related. So you could withdraw it anytime it's available, you put it out, so PUX goes up. So you just stake one ETH and then say, okay, guys, can I get some delegations to get to the whatever minimum threshold it is to at least delegate light. And if I get enough ETH, I can delegate finality and get more issuance. But it will not be zero. It will be zero once you go, I don't know, above 50% plus 70%, but it will go towards zero, meaning that the protocol will not incentivize holders to pay for security too much to stakers. So basically, you inverse the dynamic. So to answer your question, I think there will be enough altruistic nodes to take on this job without so much. And even delegators who have a lot of ETH would maybe delegate just to have a voice in protocol. Because they do have the ETH, so they capture the Goron in their asset, basically, so they don't have to stake to make profits. So they're probably going to delegate or stake just to keep their chain that makes everything possible resilient. We'll see.
Perfect. Any others have some questions? Because I know I want to know the APY. I want to know the APY.
What APY? APR.
Exactly. You always want to return on the investment, right? So if we don't have any more questions from the audience, I want to say so much thank you for Dan to going through how everything on the ETH network is working. Thank you. Everybody give him a big hand.